Hey, it's Chris Cruz, and you're listening to the On the Mic podcast.
So do you want to introduce yourself to everyone who is listening or watching this?
Sure. Yeah. My name's Chris Cruz. I've been working in radio as an on-air DJ almost 20 years, and I'm now doing a bunch of stuff on social media, Twitch, a couple different YouTube shows. I DJ weddings and live events on the weekends, so always doing something, making something, you know?
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, let's get into the first question. It is, how did you get into the radio business?
The shortest version possible, Jacob. I've always been a very outgoing kid, loud, obnoxious kid in school. So I always knew I was going to do something with entertaining. Like I wanted to be a rock star originally. Then I learned that singing and playing guitar is really hard. So I wanted to do something like that. And I was driving home from this crappy job one day, and I heard an ad on the radio about this school in Detroit where I live called the Specs Howard School of Media Arts, which has now been absorbed into another school. But they said, if you want to get into radio, you know, check out this school. And I called and found out there's an actual school for people who want to learn radio. Wow. Started there. I got an internship here in Detroit at Channel 955 about 2 weeks into my year at school. And then that was almost 20 years ago.
Wow. That's super cool. Congrats. What is it like getting to have like a syndicated radio show? What's that like?
Sure. Thank you for asking. Yeah. So Throwback 2K, the host that I show, is on currently in 38 markets across America. Wow. And honestly, Jacob, just to be completely frank with you, it still doesn't feel real. You know, I've been doing this a long time, but I never thought I'd get to the point where I'm in the same sentence as people like Ryan Seacrest, and R-Dub and Jubal and just all these Bob and Sherry, all these massive shows. So I'm still kind of absorbing it, even though it's been on for almost a year, but it's absolutely incredible. It is the hands down highlight of my career, and I'm loving every second of it so far.
That's good. That's awesome. What is a syndicated radio show? Yeah, what is that like for the people who don't know like what that is? Do you want to share a little bit about that?
Absolutely. Almost any show you watch on television, like Jimmy Fallon, Jeopardy, you know, if you're watching shows like that, those are syndicated. Means they are filmed or recorded in one location and aired in multiple locations. So like Throwback 2K is on in Kansas City. We're on in Baltimore. We're on like in cities all over the country. And what's cool about that is you get to reach people you normally wouldn't reach if you're only on like in one market. Like I know you're in Arizona, or like if I'm here in Detroit, you get to talk to people all over the country. And in some cases, like R-Dub, he's on internationally. So he's on all over the world with Sunday Night Slow Jam. So it's a really cool opportunity to touch more people's lives who you normally wouldn't get to reach.
I like that. That's good. Did you go to college to get into the radio business? Yeah.
So Specs Howard, the school that I went to, which again has now been absorbed by another school. At the time, they were only teaching television and radio, basically how to get in front of a camera, how to operate a camera, or for the radio side, you know, how to talk properly in front of a microphone, you know, how to speak a little bit more eloquently, which for me is really hard because I have a minor speech impediment. I have pretty obvious ADHD. Sometimes it's hard for me to slow down and not to stutter and stammer. So that helped a lot. You know, not sure if everyone needs to take that path. That was just the most apparent to me at the time. I walked into the school. I took like a short tour and I saw the radio stations. And I go, I'm going to do that forever. And then that was it.
That's cool. And do you recommend going to college to get into radio?
You know, that's Jacob. It's a case by case basis. I think it depends on what people's personal beliefs are, you know, what they want to accomplish. Like for me, I don't have a bachelor's degree. I've never once in my radio career been asked for one. And I personally don't care about that. It's not a personal goal of mine. For other folks, maybe they want to be the first person in their family to graduate college or get a college degree, or maybe a sibling. Like my brother's a doctor. He's a medical doctor. He has a doctorate. So you could imagine my parents', you know, initial reaction when I said, I want to go to radio school and not get a degree. So it worked out great for me. I would tell anyone who's trying to get into broadcasting and radio just to, you know, do what they feel is best for them, because every situation is different.
Yeah, it is. And then what position do you like recommend for those who want to get into radio? What position do you recommend like for them starting off in?
That's a really good question, Jacob. And I'd say any position you can get. If you can get your foot in the door of a radio station, if it's working the front desk or starting off in promotions. I know you talked to Hannah B recently, who started in promotions, and she's phenomenal. She's going to be the next big thing in radio. But any position you can get in the radio station. I started off as an intern signing commercial logs. And it was so boring. But I kept telling myself, one day I'm going to be that person on the radio. One day I'm going to be that person on stage. And it happened. You know, it was kind of boring at first, but I kept just hustling and working at it. And, you know, now here we are.
Yeah, that's good. I like that. And then how did you start a syndicated show? Yeah, how did that come to be?
Sure. When I was working here in Detroit at 98.7 AMP Radio, which is now flipped formats actually a couple of times since then, as an Odyssey station, I was doing mornings there and the station flipped formats and I go, well, damn, now what do I do? I moved home. I moved my wife here. We bought a house. We have our dog here. I felt like really kind of pinned in a corner.
Yeah.
And then I got a phone call from a gentleman by the name of Tony Larino, who owns Throwback Nation and Throwback Brands, which also owns my show, Throwback 2K. And we just started talking, and unbeknownst to me at the time, Jacob, he was actually like interviewing me on the phone. We were just talking about, like, you know how you and I are talking right now?
Yeah.
But he was like, you know, digging for stuff. And I realized one day, oh my God, he was interviewing me for weeks on end, just talking about radio and about help with this big project. And the project turned out to be Throwback 2K, which is the show I host. So it kind of happened under my nose and I had no idea it was happening. But man, I am really, really, really thankful, Jacob, for that phone call from Tony that day.
That's awesome. And then what do you love about being in radio?
That a lot. There's so many things I love. My thing's always been, I just knew that I was built and I was put here on this planet to entertain people. I don't say that from a place of being cocky or anything like that. That's my gift. You know, you've got that gift. So many people in this industry have that gift. So I knew at a young age, it was going to be something like that. So I've always liked touching people's lives, making people laugh. Maybe we're at a concert and a parent's there with, you know, their daughter who said, you know, you gave us free tickets. This is our first concert ever. But what's really interesting, Jacob, is in the last couple of years, 2, 3, 4 years, since I've kind of gotten more into the limelight of radio, which I'm very thankful for and very humbled by. My new favorite thing about radio, and I'm not saying this to like bait you or anything, is talking to people like you and people like Hannah B. And I know you talked to DJ J-Man not too long ago. You guys are the next generation of what I do and what we do in this industry. So if I can even have a sliver of an effect on an upcomer like you, who's gonna be like the next big star, or if I somehow inspired somebody or gave them a piece of advice that helped them in their career, that's what's most fulfilling to me now. It's really, really a good feeling to help other people like that.
I like that. That's awesome. And then is it easy getting to do a syndicated show?
It's really not super different from like, because you own 2 radio stations, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so, man, that's so cool, man. You inspire me. So, you know, when you were doing your show on the 2 stations that you own, a syndicated show isn't much different from that. A lot of times those shows will be pre-recorded because there's so many different moving parts and you got to get them to different affiliates. Sometimes people will do them live, just depends on the show. But really the only tough thing that I've experienced, Jacob, doing a syndicated show as opposed to like a local show is that you got to be cognizant that people are listening all over the country. Sometimes, like you and I are different time zones, listening to different time zones. So you can't really talk about, oh my gosh, it's so hot out here. Because maybe on the other coast, it's not. So you kind of have to be a little bit ambiguous with things like that. But, you know, like if you watch The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon, I'm a huge fan of late night talk shows. He'll say, it's so cold here in New York, and he specifies that, you know? So if I were to say on Throwback 2K, oh my God, it's 95 degrees here at my studio in Detroit, that makes more sense, but you you have to give a more of a specific point of reference. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, good.
Yeah. How is it going to have like a syndicated show on nationwide, like what you said, like 30 something?
Yeah, 38 markets, believe it or not.
38 markets. What's that like?
Humbling, intimidating sometimes. Sometimes it's scary. But then every weekend, my wife and I, no matter what we're doing, we'll find at some point in the weekend to turn on Throwback 2K to hear it on one of the, you know, affiliates, like on a station stream, on one of their apps, whatever. And it makes me smile every time. It makes all those long nights, all the work, all the videos, all the social media worth it, you know, because this is going to sound so cheesy, but I know you can relate to this because I feel like you're a dreamer like I am, but like it's a dream. It's an absolute literal, Jacob, dream come true. You know, I've been working at this a long time and I've had some awesome radio memories and some, you know, bad radio memories and bad experiences. So all that culminates into this, and it's worth it. I absolutely am in love with what I do.
That's good. I like that. That's awesome. Do you want to share a little bit about your syndicated show, like for those who want to like give it a listen and all that?
Yeah, sure. You can find all my content at chriscruz.com. I keep it all there. So all my social medias. If you want to watch one of my new YouTube shows or check out Throwback 2K, you can just go to throwback2k.com if you want to check it out. And I would just love to hear kind of what you think about the show, because it's still in its infancy. It's been on less than a year. So we're still kind of, you know, ducking and weaving, moving a piece here, moving a piece there, adjusting music slightly. So I would love to know what you and your fans think about the show.
I like that. It's good. I think that's like all the questions I have. And
if you don't mind, I have a question for you.
Okay. That'd be good.
How are you getting these massive stars like Josh Martinez to come on your show, dude? Like, are you paying people under the table? Like, what's the deal? That's really impressive.
I'm just like reaching out to them on Instagram and waiting for the DM back. Yeah.
That's so cool. One,
Yeah.
I got to give you respect for being brave enough to do that, because some people get very intimidated.
Yeah.
But I think that's cool, and I think it shows you that, you know, people who do what you do and do what I do, like, we all care, and we all love this content industry, if it's radio, TV, YouTube, streaming, podcast, whatever, that it's okay to reach out. And when I was talking to Marie from the Radio Fam about you, I'm like, oh, dude, I want to talk to this guy. He sounds so interesting. I'm like, you talk to Sean Tempesta, who's like one of my favorite people on earth. Josh Martinez, who may be one of the most badass DJs ever.
Yeah.
And it said, like, you know, upcoming stars like, you know, Hannah B. And then I saw that you love JoJo Siwa. I'm like, okay, the guy's got good taste. So I'm like, I knew I had to talk to you.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah,
That
man,
really
of course. It's my
means a
pleasure.
lot.
Totally.
Okay. And then the last important one is, where can everyone check you out and find you? And
Yep, you can find, again, all my content at chriscruz.com. My biggest new project right now is a new, because I DJ weddings on the weekends. I think I mentioned that earlier.
Yeah.
And getting kind of deep into that. So I have a new show on YouTube called Cut the Effing Cake. And it's just about not sweating all those little details about, you know, your wedding and things like that. So that's what I'm working on now. But if you want to find anything I do, I would love to connect with any of your fans. They're welcome to reach out to me just like you did. Just go to chriscruz.com and you can find all my socials and all my connections right there.
That's good. And then I think that's pretty much all. Yeah. If you want to, so if you have anything you want to share, you can do that if you want to.
Yeah, but I would tell everyone to make sure you subscribe to the On the Mic podcast, because I think, Jacob, I think people like you are the future. So just keep doing what you do. Keep putting out content, keep doing stuff like this, because this is how you're going to get really good at what you do really fast, just by doing it over and over and kind of, you know, throwing yourself into the content game. There's folks in radio, Jacob, that, like, you know, I know they've been doing this 10, 15 years that aren't doing their own podcast. And here you are, you know, a little bit newer at this, but like, you already sound great and you're hustling and working hard. So just keep doing what you're doing, man. And the stardom will come faster than you think, you know?
Thanks. That
of course.
Means a lot to hear.
No problem.
From you. Thanks again to do this interview with me.
Oh, of course. I'm humbled that you reached out and wanted to talk to me. So I'm glad that you thought I was someone who's important enough to be featured on your show. So thank you.
You're welcome. Anytime. And I'm glad that Marie got to hook this whole thing up. That was awesome.
Dude, Marie and the Radio Fam, don't sleep on them. If you're not following them, make sure you check them out, because she is amazing.
She is. She really is. I'll end this recording real quick so we can talk off and behind the scenes and all of that.
Ooh, what are we going to talk about?
Yeah.